We're breaking down the AFC East, previewing training camp, previewing preseason and 2025. Which teams got better? Who's ready to break out this season on today's Peacock and Williamson?
NFL analyst Brian Peacock and former NFL scout Matt Williamson bring you expert NFL analysis every day in less than 30 minutes. Get an inside look at the NFL on the field and in the front office with elite breakdowns to next-level analysis and in-depth information only for the real NFL fans. This is Peacock and Williamson, and it starts now.
Welcome to the Peacock and Williamson NFL Show. Brian Peacock alongside Matt Williamson at BD Peacock at Williamson NFL. Thanks, everybody, for making us your first listen on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. Love and appreciate all the everydayers out there. Thanks for hanging with us. Getting ready for 2025. We're going division by division here as we are ready for camps to open around the NFL. It is almost that time and preseason, and we're kind of projecting what these teams might look like. Who got better? Who got worse? And who might be some breakout players to watch in the 2025 season for every team in the NFL. Today's episode of Peacock and Williamson is brought to you by FanDuel. Great time to sign up for FanDuel right now because new customers can get $150 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Who we betting out here in the AFC East, Matt? Yesterday we did an episode and we were looking at kind of the baselines and the odds and which teams had the I already forgot what the term is, the projected points, but it was the implied. That's the word.
Implied. Okay, yeah. I was trying to think of it. My
points, right? Yep. And number one in the NFL was none other than the Buffalo Bills. Been running this division for a little while. How do you see the Buffalo Bills? Did they get better this offseason?
Yeah, and maybe this isn't the best division to start because of all the 8 divisions, I think that the clear number one team in the AFC East is clearer than the other 7 divisions. You agree? If you gave me
that way, it never ends up being that way, but it has kind of been that way in this division. So you feel more comfortable for sure projecting this one.
I mean, they're definitely in the best place quarterback wise, recent wins, where they're at as a franchise. But if we go, did they get better? So we're going to do an 8-part series here. The easy answer for all the teams is yes, because the NFL is so smart that now, as I always say, is the season of optimism. Basically, all your free agents are going to solve every hole. Every draft pick's going to hit. Everyone that comes back from injury is going to be fine. There's going to be no lingering effects. Everyone will say things like, "Oh, we'll be healthier this year than last year." How do you know? Bad things. Only bad things pretty much happen between now and the day you're eliminated. I mean, there's not many pleasant surprises.
Especially for those seasons that go really bad. You're like, oh man, remember the summer when we were 0-0 and everything was looking great and we expected all these young players to develop and take steps forward, and that doesn't always happen.
Right. Like this time last year, it's like, oh, the Jets have Aaron Rodgers and Tyron Smith and Morgan Moses, and they're going all in on these old guys. They're going to make a run. Nope. You know what I mean? So the league is so smart. I call this the era of optimism. The time of it's the optimism season. So all the fan bases are excited. There's something to be excited about. I can't say the Bills got better though. I mean, plateauing where they're at is great, but I do respect, and Warren Sharp, I'm going to reference him a lot because I'm deep into his book and I actually read the Bills chapter 2 days ago, coincidentally. During this era, I just want to throw this out there and quote Warren more or less, that during this Mahomes era of dominance, by far the best playoff quarterback is Josh Allen. I mean, he's almost flawless in the playoffs, and he has these great games and they lose 35-33.
Oh,
so
dude,
Buffalo,
the Chiefs game a few years ago. I mean, that one was insane, and they couldn't have the ball last.
I mean, just statistically, EPA, all those things. He's been the best playoff quarterback in the last 10 years, but doesn't have much to show for it. So I give them credit. Maybe Bosa doesn't do a ton for them, but they drafted 3 more defensive linemen. At least they attack that side of the ball in terms of, are they better? I think with this team, which isn't the same as the other 31, we're going to have to find that out in round 2 and 3 of the playoffs. You know what I mean?
Right. You have to kind of wait on that one.
Fine line, yeah.
And it's hard to say, and you talked about how this division and is maybe one of the easiest to project. It wasn't close last year. They were 5 games ahead of everybody, right? They were the only ones to make the playoffs in the division. They were a 13-4 football team. The second place team was the Miami Dolphins at 8-9 in the division. They were plus 157 point differential was top 3 in the entire NFL. So they ran away with this division, and on paper, they're the best team in this division, I think, by a clear margin. I think there's a potential for them to be better this year, but it's hard to project them and say, oh, they're going to, if you're going 13 wins from last year over under, it's hard to say, oh, they're going to be a 14, 15 win team this year. They could certainly do that, but maybe it's 12 wins, maybe it's 11 wins, and maybe it's 14 wins. But I think there is an opportunity for them to be better this year. Mm-hmm. Clearly, you're looking at, okay, well, where do they get better? One thing I don't like about their wide receiver group is the player that you think could take the biggest step for them in year 2, who was their not their first round picks. They traded out of the first round and drafted Keon Coleman early in the second round last year. I don't know if he's playing the right position. I want to see him playing the big slot role. And all they have is kind of slot guys. They've got a slot receiving tight end, right? Kincaid, I expect more from him this year, so I think that would be a big way to get better. You got Khalil Shakir and you got Keon Coleman. It's like they don't have a lot of the outside guys, and
that's why they traded for Amari Cooper last year,
right? Yeah, and he was kind of looking like a little shell of himself. And they had Von Miller, and they had all these aging guys. They really need the young core to step up to really get to where they need to go and help out Josh Allen.
Yeah, but in the end, are they better? And I think this will be true with the Ravens. They have to get to the Super Bowl or win the Super Bowl. They're almost hitting their head on the ceiling now. There's not much ways to get better.
And if we're talking about a breakout player with the team this year, Maxwell Hairston was their first round pick, cornerback. They've been trying to figure out corner for a long time. I think
Kentucky Wildcat.
Yeah, there you go.
First round Kentucky Wildcat.
Invested in the Kentucky Wildcats. Their second rounder, TJ Sanders, pick number 41 overall. That's an intriguing one for me. And if he's that dude, gives you that interior rush, that can go a long way to helping that defense for sure.
Yeah, if it's 30 snaps a game.
Yeah.
They're going to definitely have a rotation up front. They got a lot of dudes.
So, yeah, the Bills, again, did they improve? Maybe. Did they get worse? No, they should be that team again, right? So
I like their tweaks.
Yes.
These other teams did a lot more than tweaks.
We'll talk about breakout players, and no doubt some of those players. I think TJ Sanders would probably be one of those guys for me, even though he's you look a lot to year 2 and 3 for breakout guys, but he could break out right away as a rookie. Who could potentially dethrone the Buffalo Bills is what we have to get into, Matt, next. This episode of Peacock and Williamson is brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sports book, and it's summertime, right? Baseball every single night. There was a walk-off inside the park home run last night.
Wow.
Just right down the road from where I live, and something that hasn't been done by a catcher in 100 years. So that's what I love about baseball. You always get those things.
Catcher that can run? Wow.
Yeah, I mean, it's a weird ballpark quirk, and you hit it off the bricks in deep right center, and it can roll in different directions. So, but man, summer sports in full swing. Baseball. I'm a big baseball guy. I grew up playing a lot more baseball than I did football. Whether it's golf on the green, which I started late and have been golfing a lot as well, so I'm more invested in that than ever. High stakes soccer action, whatever it is, FanDuel is the best way to make every game even more exciting. Live in-game parlays. You want to bet on that comeback, that come from behind victory during the game? You don't even have to wait. You don't have to wait until first pitch, but you can wait until after first pitch to make your bets if you want. And of course, we're talking to NFL football fans. Every weekly line is already up for the NFL season at FanDuel. Tons of props for the 2025 season. Bet on your team to win the Super Bowl. If maybe you think that what we're talking about in these improved teams, you get those good odds here before the season starts, before you see how good those teams actually have become. And if you're new to FanDuel, now's a great time to sign up. New customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. So open the FanDuel app or visit FanDuel.com today to get started. The Miami Dolphins were 8-9 last year, as previously mentioned. This is a team that's kind of gone up and down, been a little bit of a roller coaster, a full healthy 17 games from Tua Tagovailoa, I think will go a long way. We get a lot of Dolphins fans on the podcast that, feel like we disrespect Tua and they kind of disrespect some of the things that are going on there. I think Mike McDaniel is a really good offensive mind. I think GM-wise and team building-wise, they've done some weird stuff, but you got Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, tight end position, whatever. I don't know what's going on there. You've got guys that can run the football for you. You got a pass rush, right? If everyone, again, stays healthy, is health really the only key to where this team we're talking about as a playoff team and an above 500 team once again after being sub 500 last year, Matt?
Certainly with Tua. I mean, they're two different teams with and without him. And you could say that about a lot of teams, but we've unfortunately seen too much of that. And frankly, I think he's a little underrated. He's perfect fit for what they want to do. And but I think they're going the wrong direction. And I'm saying more so organizationally speaking. They kind of took their shot with the Tyreeks and Ramseys and they missed. I mean, the Rams, the Bucks, they took their shot. They won the Super Bowl. Most teams miss, and Miami basically missed. Where I do think they're trending the right direction, and it might be a little too late, little too late, is they go get Grant and Big Jonah from Arizona and finally invest in some 350 pounders, for when you go to Buffalo in December and can play a little bit more small ball and tough guy,
I love that. I was going to mention the exact same thing. I like the way they started their draft. It's meat and potatoes draft for them. And not only did they go with a nose tackle type, a defensive tackle that could potentially give you a lot more with how athletic he is, number 13 overall, Grant. You can dare to dream with how good he can be. Jonah Savanea, I mean, he could play tackle. I mean, he could be guard. He could be a masher, but he's a pretty good pass protector as well. Maybe a little body bias against him in the draft process. He worked out pretty well as well. So ended up going number 37 overall, and nearly a first-round pick on the offensive line, adding some beef to both lines. And then they came back and added another large, powerful defensive lineman with some upside in Jordan Phillips in the 5th round. They didn't have a 3rd or 4th-round pick there. And so Ollie Gordon, a little bit more of a banger running back as well in the 6th round. So you can see where they thought, we need to be good in December and not just September, warm weather Miami football, which you like. I think this team has to be better this year, right? And it's probably a make or break season with the Miami Dolphins, with the coaching staff, with the front office potentially, because if they are sub 500 again, you got to make big changes. I don't expect them to be sub 500, but you do need some injury luck to go your way. I think they're above the line quarterback wise. They've got playmakers. They've got a pass rush. Like, those are the ingredients you need to be a good football team, man.
They do, but they don't have any corners. Back 7 in general is a little rough. I think it's a pretty fragile team right now.
Did they improve over last year?
I'm going to say no.
Oof.
In some ways, yes, but as an organization, no.
I would take the over on 8 wins since they were an 8-win team last year, but I think they improved just from health, right?
And somewhat, yeah.
Covering people, maybe less important than it used to be. You got an all-pro safety. You got a pass rush. You don't have to cover as long on the outside and play a lot of zone concepts. They have the more important pieces, I think, for the most part. And I think Tua's good. Tua's
good.
He'll have an opportunity to shine. And I like him in the offense that they specifically run. I think there's an opportunity for that to all come together potentially this year. And it has to. But I can see why you have a pessimistic view about the Dolphins as well.
Yeah. I mean, I can definitely write the picture where this is his last year as a coach. I hope not. I think it's a fun team. I do think they're looking in the mirror and seeing the right things of how to fix things for the first time in a couple of years, but it might be a little too late. So
you saw, moving on to the New York Jets here, they were a 5-12 football team last year, which means they were drafted in the top 10 of the NFL draft. And we'll talk about what their draft picks potentially could do for them. But making a change at quarterback is usually the biggest and most immediate way that you can help your football team. And, even if it's drafting for the future at quarterback, that's how you change your franchise, right? And they've gone through some weird stuff with young quarterbacks. Didn't quite work out. They brought in a Hall of Famer at the end of his career. Didn't work out with Aaron Rodgers. And now they brought in a guy in Justin Fields who you've seen a lot of in Pittsburgh. It's hard for me to say that Justin Fields is that guy to turn around your franchise from what we've seen from him, as talented as he is so far in his career.
Yeah. And that being said, we talked about how much different expectations are now from 1 year ago. Old guys, Aaron Rodgers, etc. But I do think last year was good for the organization in that they bottomed out. You hit rock bottom, and now you bounce back. Now, I don't think Fields will be the long-term answer, but you draft tackles in back-to-back years. That makes me happy. You know what I mean? Like, that's a start. You still have the Quinn Williams and Wilsons and Sauces. And frankly, I think the coaching change is going to pay off dramatically. I don't think they're a better football team, but they're going the right direction. And as you can imagine, I watched a lot of Aaron Rodgers Jets tape last year, and he was part of the problem, but they were dysfunctional on offense too. I mean, they had hard times like picking up stunts and there's a lot of basic stuff. Like the scheme was bad. I mean, so you get back to middle of the road in terms of coaching because they were bottom of the road. And I'm not even blaming Saleh. They got worse after firing him. I mean,
they did. They got worse.
Right.
I think they won the first game, and then I don't know if they won another game after that.
Yeah. I mean, that was not a good move, and he was the wrong scapegoat. But the offensive scheme was a disaster. So I think they're better that way, but I don't think Fields is going to light the world on fire.
And make sure you don't get worse defensively. But here's the same thing is like, so we always talk about this. What do you have? Coach, quarterback. Do you have that combination? You're going to be in good shape in the NFL. They've got a lot of talent in some key places. Is Aaron Glenn the guy? I don't know. And then an even bigger question is, okay, Aaron Glenn, got to get yourself a good head coach. What can you tell me about Tanner Engstrand as offensive coordinator? It's going to be better than what they were before. He might be the next superstar offensive coordinator. I don't know. I just don't know anything about him. So it's hard for me to say, oh, cool, they got Tanner Engstrand, and now they're going to win everything. Steve Wilkes, defensive coordinator. I know he's well respected in the NFL. He hasn't had a chance to have an opportunity to get footing as a defensive coordinator in the NFL. He's kind of bounced around a little bit. So I still have questions there. I don't think that they're a bad coaching staff, but I think there's just an unknown about what the coaching staff is going to be. I think it's still a little bit of an unknown about how good of a quarterback, especially in, again, another year one with a new coordinator for Justin Fields. He's gone through that so many times in his career. I don't know. It's hard for me to project this team being good. Can they be better than the 5-win team they were last year? Yeah, and they've got too much talent to be a bad football team. So have they improved? Probably just by changing things up and having a new vibe around town.
I like that part. Right.
Yeah. Is a playoff team? Probably not.
No, it's probably going to be a long year. And clearly, you just mentioned the coach-quarterback combinations. They're a distant fourth in this division.
Right.
And some of it's incomplete, but they're a distant fourth. Yeah.
No doubt.
I mean, Vrabel and Maye, you feel pretty good about.
Absolutely. Armand Membo was the first round pick, number 7 overall. Love a young bookend offensive tackle group they're putting together there on the offensive line. When in doubt, build your lines. Mason Taylor, big athletic, tight end out of LSU in round 2. Azariah Thomas, corner. Kind of just looking at the earlier round picks there. Are those players going to change the course of the franchise? I don't know, but I do like that draft at the top for some meat and potatoes again, like the Miami Dolphins doing some work there. So yeah, it's all about the coaching staff and the quarterback, and I think it's an unknown.
Right?
Totally incomplete. So
maybe they end up with not higher next year, and the coach looks really promising, and we're like, oh, they have a coach at quarterback. I don't know.
Potential breakouts, though. We're going to talk about breakout players next. One more team in the division to cover here, which is maybe the team that you could project to have the biggest jump because of potentially a young, budding superstar, maybe quarterback in Drake Maye, and breakout players throughout the division next. You've been driving the bus, Matt, for a while on Drake Maye, and so you have to be optimistic about an improved football team potentially with a new head coach in New England with the Patriots. They were a 4-13 team last year. They've been drafted in the top 5 for a few years now, and if you hit on those picks and you get the right coach, things can turn around pretty quickly in the NFL. Are things going to turn around quickly in the NFL? You look at a 4-win team and say, okay, it's easy to take an over on 4 wins, but how many wins could they add to that total this year in New England?
So I'm a fan. I mean, I think Vrabel's a legit coach. I don't think the coach between Belichick and Vrabel was. I think he'll go down as way over his head. I'm a massive Maye fan. They had a buttload of cap space and good draft capital, and I kind of like what they did with it. But I do think the general public's a little ahead of themselves on this team. I mean, there's a lot of people like, oh, this is a 7-8 win team. Like, I think they're massively trending the right way, but I don't see this as a playoff contender, or I'd be shocked if they're over 500. I mean, I think 6 wins and being highly competitive and not being a disaster is a step in the right direction. And I think that's what we're talking about here. You know,
Yeah,
they were
stop
bad
being a
last
disaster.
year. I mean, their weapons in O-line were pitiful last year.
Right. And that's kind of one of the things that's holding it back for me. I could see where Vrabel could come in, and they do have some talent on the defensive side of the ball. They brought in Harold Landry, and, you know, that's one of the things that I'm sure Vrabel walked in and was like, we got to have a better pass rush than this. What are we doing in the front seven on this football team, right? Christian Barmore, and everything goes well there. They bring in Milton Williams. Like, they threw dollars at it. They again, another team that drafted another offensive lineman early with Will Campbell there. So you like that. And protect Drake Maye, help you run the ball as well. So from that standpoint, yes, Stephon Diggs, is he enough? I love Travion Henderson's second round pick. So I like both their first 2 picks in this draft. I think Travion Henderson at the end of the year is going to be the starting running back. He's going to be on all my fantasy teams. Love Travion Henderson. But, you know, Stephon Diggs, Demario Douglas, I think Kendrick Bourne's still around there, right? Kyle Williams, by the way. In fact, man, I don't remember our post-draft grades, but I love this draft. The more I look at it for the New England Patriots, I must have given them an A, right? Because Will Campbell, Travion Henderson, Kyle Williams, Jared Wilson, phenomenal value as a future center. I think he's got, you know, even all-pro center potential out of Georgia there in round 3. They came back with Craig Woodson, an athletic safety. Joshua Farmer, I think, was a steal as a 4th-round pick that potentially could be a starting caliber defensive tackle, at least a good backup. Braden Swinson, a kind of a one-dimensional pass rushing guy in the 5th round. I mean, phenomenal draft class for the New England Patriots. So you get a real legitimate NFL head coach that's proven to be that. You have your second-year quarterback develop potentially into a superstar.
I think there should be a lot of optimism. I just think some people are getting a little ahead of themselves considering where they were at a year ago.
And of course, Josh McDaniels back as well. I mean,
as a coordinator, I'm on board with that. I just don't think he's a good head coach. Right.
He's got
the right direction and better than last.
You know, that's got to be exciting.
They should be excited.
Breakout players. Do you have some breakout players? I'm sure there's many on the New England Patriots roster, maybe more than the rest of the league. So let's start there. Breakout players in the division here. New England Patriots, they could be better. And it's all around. I mean, I'm just going to throw it out there first. Drake Maye is obviously the most obvious flashing light of
He's
a
on
breakout
top of my list, yeah.
And I know you liked Drake Maye coming into the NFL. Tell me about Drake Maye. How good could he be if he does break out?
I think this time next year we'll be like, oh, he's an already top 10 quarterback. Maybe, I mean, this is ambitious, could push for high tier 2, borderline tier 1 Herbert level guy, you know, and be like, boy, what if we got him as Randy Moss, you know what I mean? And one more guy in the O-line. And like, I can at least see that a year from now. And that, boy, one more thing around him or 2 more things around him, and he may be one of the better guys in the league. So he's a jumping off an easy, low-hanging fruit breakout candidate on my list.
Absolutely love that. And any of those players I just mentioned in the as far as a rookie class goes, Travion Henderson, again, like he's going to be on my fantasy team. I like him a lot. Kyle Williams, I think, awesome sleeper pick for them at wide receiver. Can absolutely get open, dynamically athletic player that is going to be one of the top 2 or 3 wide receivers probably right away for this New England roster that needs those types of playmakers. And you hope Stephon Diggs still has some left as that veteran player that can be a young quarterback's veteran number 1 wide receiver there. And then you can start to build the story of the offense being really good if the quarterback's ready to play, because you got a 2-headed monster at running back. Love that. And Christian Gonzalez as well, I think we have to mention on defense, not necessarily as a breakout player. Everyone knows he's already good, but you do have some pieces there, Carlton Davis, and guys that can cover as well in the back end of that New England defense. You know, the more I talk about it, I might talk myself into the Patriots winning more more games than you've even given them credit for, Matt. Clearly, I think they're an improved football team.
I think the defense has a chance to be quite good.
Yeah.
I mean, I just think that there's not enough around Maye, but I think the defense will be really good. And two of my other like breakout guys are Keon White, who I think is a really talented, movable chess piece, DN type guy. And I don't know if he counts, but you mentioned Barmore earlier. Barmore was a massively ascending top 10, nearly dominant D tackle before his medical condition. It wasn't an injury. So if he could get back to that guy, I mean, like he was far and away their best defensive player at that point. And now Gonzalez is in the mix. And you put him next to Milton Williams. If you get the old version of Barmore and you started to see it, I'd be real excited about him too.
If the quarterback's ready to go, it's a playoff team we're talking about. I mean,
I think we're getting a little ahead of ourselves.
Excitement just keeps. Sometimes you look at a roster, you're like, I could see it, man. I'm buying the New England Patriots. Let's go.
I still think another receiver and two more O linemen would make me feel a lot better.
All right. What about Bills, Dolphins, Jets? What other breakout players do you like in the NFC East this year?
I don't really have any for the Bills. The Bills are pretty well established. I mean, I liked your call of what's his face, the defensive lineman. You know, some of their rookies are intriguing. Don't get me wrong. I only have one for Miami, and it's also probably cheating. Jalen Waddle. I just think he had a bad year. I think he's going to be back to being awesome as opposed to being okay. You know, like, and if Tyreek gets traded at the deadline or something, like Waddle's going to be on all my fantasy teams. So we talked about that wide receiver, stuff.
That's kind of the thing with the Dolphins is like, man, it can't go as bad as it went last year, right? Like, I feel like every part of it was just not right. And Waddle was certainly one of those because even when he was completely healthy, it was just like, what's going on here? Why is Waddle, who walked into the league getting 120 targets his rookie year or whatever it was, I think he had 100 catches his rookie year, didn't he? And so
he forget how to be good at football or lose. I mean, he'll be fine. I'm not worried about him at all.
How's that possible? You got Tyreek Hill. He's still racing cheetahs in the offseason. He's still athletic, right? So come on. Yeah, Waddle re-breakout, I think, is a good one there. And Chop Robinson for me is the guy that's like,
that's a great one. Yeah.
He's you could see it. He didn't have the sack numbers in college, but man, I was betting on Chop Robinson. And so pre-draft bias for me, believing in him and then seeing it as a rookie, be like, I knew there was more sacks to come because the balls were just getting out too early, right before he was getting there in college. NFL's a different beast. He's athletic off the edge. Love him as a phenomenal, potentially like a Hassan Reddick style, like, this is a double-digit sack guy every year.
Yep, couldn't agree more. And kind of did break out in the second half of his rookie year. Yeah. It started to really make noise down the stretch, and people weren't paying enough attention. The Jets, I actually have the most names.
All right, let's hear it. New York Jets breakout players for 2025.
I would have definitely picked him a year ago. Former first-round pick that gets overshadowed by Garrett Wilson and Sauce because he was the third first-round pick that year is Jermaine Johnson. I thought he was highly, highly promising and then got hurt really early on. So if he can get back on the arc that he was pre-injury, I think their front could be quite good with Quinnen Williams, and McDonald kind of already broke out too as a first-round pick, got a lot of sacks. We mentioned him earlier in Membo, but I think their pair of tackles are going to break out. I mean, I thought they got Fashanu's a pure left, Membo's my pure right. I think they're right where they need to be, and we're going to look at them as, that could be like a top 5 pair of bookends, in a year.
In the offensive line altogether, because you have young Joe Tippmann there at center, Elijah Vera Tucker, one of the guards, first-round pick. First-round picks there, right, if he can stay healthy. So, and
it could be a good line.
And I do love that Membo went to a team who's like, okay, you're a right tackle.
You're a right tackle. Let's not mess with you. I was really high on him. And then another rookie for them, too, is I think Mason Taylor is going to be an impact guy as a rookie. I mean, I don't know who's going to catch passes besides Garrett Wilson, and Mason Taylor might be pretty productive.
I kind of like that. In a why am I blanking on his name now? The Detroit Lions second-round tight end
like
from
Laporta. Yeah.
Laporta. It was like, everyone liked him. That was a good player, right? Second-round guy. And all of a sudden, he was just a huge piece of the offense right away.
Yeah.
I could see that for Mason Taylor, right? Grew up in a football family. Might be advanced beyond his years as far as being a rookie and jumping into the NFL versus other rookie tight ends, because your head could spin a little bit as a tight end. You learn basically 2 separate positions, as a blocker and as a receiver. And you're right, like Josh Reynolds, he's kind of always been the number 3, number 4 guy everywhere he's went. Alan Lazard doesn't have Rodgers anymore? Is he going to be a huge part of the offense? So why not Mason Taylor to be the number 2 catching the football, maybe number 3 after Breece Hall and Garrett Wilson?
Yeah, catch. I don't know what the numbers would be, but he can block a little bit as well. And he's an athletic, talented dude that comes from a football family. And I expect him to be a success story after year 1.
Yeah, and the more we talk about all these teams, the more you can see it.
It's optimism season, dude. I told you.
Optimistic about these teams. They all got better in the AFC East.
You do it for a living for the Niners. I do it for the Steelers. I mean, when you look through the lens of one team, especially this time of year, you can see the vision. You can understand it. But then your center and best receiver and best pass rusher all break their leg in camp. And you're like, like a lot of bad things are coming, guys.
Justin Fields is like, wandering into sacks, holding the ball too long. And you're like,
as he kind of always did. And you're like, why do we think he's good? Right.
Do you have any more breakouts before we go?
No, that was it. I mean, it's a pretty long list.
Yeah, no, it's a long list. A lot of potential breakouts here in the AFC East. It is optimism season. What do you think about the teams in the AFC East? Who will break out for you in 2025? Let us know at BD Peacock, at Williamson NFL. Drop a comment or a question on YouTube for this week's mailbag episode. Of course, subscribe while you're there, and you can subscribe anywhere you are listening to this podcast. And Matt and I back tomorrow with that mailbag episode before we break down all the other divisions in the NFL, getting ready for 2025 right here on Peacock and Williamson.